Coming up on First at 4, the Kentucky legislative session resumes tomorrow. We'll have a preview of what to expect. And questions continue over whether a China spy balloon should have been shot down sooner.
And nicer conditions on the way as we head through this week. The latest breakdown coming up as Mountain News First at 4 starts now.
Dedicated to Eastern and Southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News First at 4.
Good afternoon, I'm Steve Hensley. First at 4, the second part of this year's legislative session is about to begin. Lawmakers return tomorrow. One of the first items on the agenda is dealing with reports of a teacher shortage. WYMT's Phil Pendleton spoke to lawmakers about what they are expecting.
The General Assembly met for 4 days in early January. They tackled income tax reductions along with some reorganization and some procedural issues. But they're expected to be a lot more busy starting tomorrow, going through around the middle of March. And one of the first items on the agenda will be that dealing with education. The House Education Committee meets at 10 o'clock Tuesday morning, and a number of groups are expected to testify about a teacher shortage they say is in the thousands. Republican leaders say they question if those numbers are inflated, but they say that it's true. There is a national shortage of teachers. They say there's been work to get to the core issues of attracting people to the profession. Juvenile justice is expected to be discussed with problems at several detention centers. The House easily passed income tax reductions and say more are on the way, but first it has to pass the full Senate.
Truthfully, it's only going to benefit those at the very top of the income scale, those who are making $500,000 or more a year. They're going to be the big beneficiaries of this cut.
I don't know of too many people that are average Kentuckians that wouldn't appreciate $300, $400, $500 left in their pockets. It's a deviation in their perception that the government can't have enough money.
And two other bills that are expected to see some action in the Senate to start off the session, including bills that were passed in the House and now moving over to the Senate, one dealing with funding for a veteran center and another dealing with funding for electric vehicles. In Frankfort, Phil Pendleton, now back to you.
Lawmakers will consider bills until March 16th, break for a veto session, then come back March 29th and adjourn the session on the 30th. The Perry County Fiscal Court has filed a lawsuit against the state of Kentucky. Perry County and the city of Hazard have come together in the complaint, which is over the ability to impose a restaurant tax. State legislation in 2015 stopped cities from reclassifying to a level that they can implement the tax, something Hazard Downtown Coordinator Bailey Richards says is unfair.
Cities cannot put their own taxes on, as far as there's no additional sales tax or anything like that a city can do, unlike what other states can. And we cannot impose this restaurant tax because we are still classified incorrectly as a different size city.
50 cities in the state currently impose a restaurant tax, which can be up to 3% and can only legally fund the city tourism board. We'll have much more on this lawsuit and try to explain it for you tonight at 6 o'clock. A surface mine in Wise County, Virginia is undergoing reclamation. The mine can be seen from Black Mountain in Harlan County, the highest point in Kentucky. The Herald Leader reports it was mined by A&G Coal Corporation. It's a family company of West Virginia Governor Jim Justice. Harlan County Magistrate Paul Browning says he's happy to see something finally being done with the surface mine.
Unintended stigma that might be associated with a project of this scope and this size, that we don't care about our area, we don't care about the mountains, we don't care about the beauty, is certainly not the case. We absolutely do. Every person here does, whether you're involved in mining or not. This is something that's on a scale that visibly you don't see around here.
We asked Browning how long it will take to reclaim the land. He says it could take years. February is American Heart Health Month. According to the CDC, about half of Americans, 47%, have at least one of three key risk factors for heart disease, which are high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and smoking. Dr. John Jones, the medical director of primary care centers of Eastern Kentucky, says heart disease is the #1 cause of death in the United States.
It's the #1, it's the leading cause of death in the United States. I think last year we had nearly 700,000 deaths. There's more deaths from cardiovascular disease than cancer or COVID. So it's very important.
Jones says it's important to raise awareness for heart health all month long, and we'll have more on how you can keep your heart healthy tonight at 6.
Well, the mild air continues through the beginning of this work week, and really it's just getting started as we head through what will turn out to be a rather warm few days throughout the region. Here's a look outside right now from Pine Mountain along US 119. All is quiet at this point. The sun is out. In fact, that's the case in many places, but notice in the background we're starting to see a little bit of that cloud cover trying to work back in from our Buffalo Mountain camera. 54 there in southern Perry County. You do see plenty of cloud cover off to our north, off to our west, and that's slowly working its way in as we watch that next system beginning to push into the region. Temperatures in those low to mid 50s region wide today, so go ahead and keep that First Alert weather app handy because we do have some rain chances on the way as we head into the next few days. We go down into the 40s tonight for those overnight lows. It's not far from where we should be for highs this time of year as we get to near 40 for an overnight low. I think our Tuesday's dry. However, I think things start to change as we head after dark on Tuesday. Those details are coming up in a few minutes. Steve?
All right, Evan, thank you. The president of Turkey has declared 7 days of national mourning due to recent earthquakes in the country. The Turkish president wrote in his tweet, quote, "Due to the earthquakes that took place in our country on February 6, 2023, a national mourning period was declared for 7 days. Our flag will fly at half-mast until sunset on Sunday, February 12, 2023, all over our country and within the foreign representations." We'll have much more on the quakes that have killed a large number of people coming up in our next half hour. The first pieces of debris from the suspected Chinese spy balloon shot down over the Atlantic Ocean after floating over the United States have made their way to the FBI's lab Quantico for analysis. That's according to a law enforcement source. As some politicians question whether it should have been shot down sooner. And just this morning, China acknowledged a second balloon over the skies of Latin America was also theirs. This one, they claimed, was being used for flight tests. CNN's Ivan Rodriguez has the latest.
U.S. Navy divers, along with unmanned vessels, are working to recover debris from the suspected Chinese spy balloon shot down over the Atlantic Ocean on Saturday after it made its way across the continental U.S. Some critics say it took too long for the Biden administration to shoot down the balloon that was seen floating across the U.S. for days.
Were we confident there was not a nuclear weapon in that payload? Were we confident it wasn't carrying biological weapons, pathogens, or toxins?
But others, including defense officials and the White House, say it was necessary to wait until it was over open water, since the amount of damage it could cause on the ground was unknown.
There's just immense intelligence value in having this thing brought down over water where we can salvage it in a more, hopefully, complete fashion.
Meanwhile, China is urging calm and called destroying the balloon an overreaction, maintaining it was a civilian research vessel. At the same time, they acknowledged on Monday that a similar balloon floating over Latin America is theirs as well, claiming it was conducting flight tests but deviated from its course by mistake. While this latest act of suspected spying will have diplomatic ramifications between Washington and Beijing, the Pentagon says it isn't the first time.
During the Trump administration, at least 3 times, these observation balloons transited the U.S. territory.
In Atlanta, I'm Ivan Rodriguez.
United Airlines has been hit with a proposed fine of more than $1 million over a pre-flight safety check for its Boeing 777 planes that was allegedly not being performed. The Federal Aviation Administration says United did away with the fire system warning check that was a requirement, and that as a result, the planes flying from June 2018 to April 2021 were, quote, not in airworthy condition. United did not immediately respond to a request for comment. They have 30 days to respond to the FAA. An official familiar with the matter says the airline dropped the check when United consolidated its pre-flight safety check procedures for its 777s and 787s. The official says a 787 computer performs the check automatically. Coming up on First at 4, several communities in eastern Ohio are under mandatory evacuation orders after a freight train derailment.
Plus, warm air, eventually rain chances back in the mountains as we head through this week. Those details after this.